What's up, guys? Golden Knight here. Most artists live in a painful cycle of creating something, comparing it to other people's work, feeling like it's not good enough, and gradually losing the desire to draw. You start avoiding your workspace. You open the sketchbook and close it. You think, maybe I don't really have talent. And the worst part is that you love drawing, but that love is being suffocated by a frustration that feels endless. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to do every day to break out of this cycle of frustration and finally feel that your art is truly evolving. It's about a system that anyone can apply, even with just 20 minutes a day. I'll guide you through essential points, from understanding where this frustration comes from to the exact moment when you stop doubting yourself and simply create. The trap of comparison. You wake up, grab your phone while still in bed, and open Instagram. In less than 3 minutes, you've already seen 15 incredible illustrations, 2 impressive animations, and a speed painting that looks like magic. Your brain hasn't even fully woken up yet, and you already feel like garbage. You don't even realize it, but you've just fallen into the most destructive trap that exists for an artist: comparison. It slowly eats away at your confidence, day after day, until you start to believe you'll never be good enough. It has become part of your routine. You see great art and automatically feel bad about your own. What you don't realize is that the artists you admire also spent years feeling exactly the way you feel right now. The difference is that they didn't allow comparison to become the ruler of their own growth. Because comparison is poison when you use other people's showcase as a mirror for your journey. That perfect drawing you saw might have taken 100 hours. It might be the best piece in a portfolio of 300 bad studies. It might be the result of 10 years of daily practice. But you only see the final result, polished, edited, lit, and you compare it to your sketch from yesterday. It's like comparing your first 5-minute run to a professional athlete's marathon. It makes no sense at all, yet we do it all the time. And do you know what's even crueler? This constant comparison steals the one thing that truly matters: your attention. Instead of looking at your own progress, you become obsessed with the distance between you and others. You don't notice that you've improved since last month because you're too busy measuring the gap between you and that artist who has been in the industry for 10 years and has 3 million followers. Your ruler is broken. You're using other people's success to measure your own failure. And while you do that, there's no energy left to actually create, study, and grow. Frustration becomes a loop. You compare yourself, feel bad, avoid creating because it's pointless anyway, and then compare yourself again because you haven't improved. It's a self-feeding cycle. The saddest part of all is that comparison kills the joy of creating. Do you remember when you used to draw without caring about anything? When it was just you, the pencil, and the paper? When the only goal was to finish that drawing of your favorite character, and it didn't matter if it came out crooked. Now every stroke comes with judgment. Every line you draw is already being mentally compared to the perfect line of someone you saw online. You no longer create for pleasure. You create trying to prove something. Trying to reach a standard that isn't even yours. And that is exhausting. It's impossible to sustain. That's why you quit. But here's the turning point: the problem isn't that you're bad. Everyone who is good at something was once bad. The problem is where you've placed your attention. Because when you shift your focus away from comparison and onto your own process, you start noticing details that used to go unnoticed. You see that you drew that hand better than you did last week. You realize your sense of proportion is sharper. You feel real progress, and that small improvement becomes powerful fuel to keep drawing. It's the certainty that you're getting better, at your own pace, in your own way. And when you understand that, frustration begins to lose its power. Because you're finally playing your own game, not someone else's. So before anything else, before talking about technique or practice, you need to change where you're looking. Stop using others as the thermometer of your ability. They are not the standard. They are just references in a journey that is yours alone. They are examples of what's possible, of where you can go. The mistake of focusing on the final result. You sit down to draw, and the first thing that appears in your mind is the mental image of the perfect drawing you want to create. That complete, fully rendered illustration, ready to go into your portfolio. You see the final result before you even make the first stroke. And that's where the problem begins. Because the distance between your current skill level and that perfect image in your head is huge. You know it. Your brain knows it. And that awareness creates an anxiety that freezes you. You sit there, staring at the blank page or the empty screen, already knowing that what comes out of your hands won't come close to what you imagined. And that hurts so much that many times you don't even start. The truth is that no one improves by getting everything right on the first try. You get better by creating bad, imperfect, unfinished things. You grow by making mistakes, experimenting, and redoing. But when your focus is on the finished product, you can't accept the messy process that leads there. You want to skip straight to the end. You want the reward without the journey. And art doesn't work like that. No skill works like that. You don't build muscle by thinking about how strong you'll be in 6 months. You build it by lifting weights today, tomorrow, and the next day. The result is a consequence. And there's another hidden poison in this misplaced focus. It turns every drawing into a massive emotional gamble. Every time you create something, you tie your self-esteem to it. If it turns out good, you feel capable. If it turns out bad, you feel like a failure. Each piece becomes a judgment of your worth as an artist. That's too heavy. It's unsustainable. Because the truth is that most of your drawings will be average. Some will be bad. And that's okay. It's part of the process. But when you treat every creation as if it defines who you are, the pressure becomes unbearable. You can't handle making mistakes. You can't handle making something ugly. And then you stop creating because the emotional cost is too high. Think about it. How many times have you started a drawing excited, realized it wasn't turning out the way you imagined, and simply quit halfway through? How many times have you erased everything and restarted 5 or 6 times until you got tired and closed the sketchbook in frustration? How many times have you deleted a file because it wasn't good enough? That's misplaced focus. You're trying to harvest fruit from a tree you haven't even planted. You're demanding from yourself a level of execution that only comes after years of practice. And while you do that, you lose the chance to actually practice because you quit before finishing anything. The result becomes an obstacle instead of a natural consequence. The hard truth is this: as long as you're obsessed with the destination, you'll ignore the map. And without the map, you keep walking in circles, frustrated, not knowing why you're not getting anywhere. The final result will come naturally, as a consequence of day after day doing the right thing, at the right pace, without rushing. But for that to happen, you need to let go of the fantasy of the perfect product and embrace the reality of the imperfect process. And that's exactly what we need to talk about now: the process, what to do every single day in a concrete and practical way. Daily observational study. There is a type of practice that most frustrated artists never do, because no one properly explains its power. I'm talking about daily observational study. It means setting aside 15 to 20 minutes of your day, every single day, to observe something real and try to reproduce it on paper or on a screen. That's it. No inventing. No creating from scratch. No trying to make something original. Just look and copy. It sounds too simple to work, right? But that's exactly where the secret lies. When you draw from imagination, you're limited by what you already know. Your brain can only create based on the database it has. If you've never truly studied how a horse's anatomy works, your brain will make it up. It will guess. And the result will look strange, but you won't know exactly why. Now, when you do an observational study, you're feeding that database. You're teaching your eyes to truly see. Most people look at the world without really processing what they're seeing. But when you sit down to copy a reference photo, a piece of fruit in front of you, a hand in an unusual position, you're forced to notice details that would normally go unseen. And every detail you observe and try to reproduce becomes real knowledge. The beauty of observational study is that even lack of time isn't an excuse not to do it. You can even practice it without drawing, anywhere. Just taking a few minutes to carefully observe something is already a great way to absorb information. Of course, when you try to reproduce it on paper, you're forced to absorb even more. But if you don't have time, simply observing is still a powerful form of study. Just don't stare at people on the street like a psychopath, or someone might call the police. It's important to understand that these daily studies don't need to be works of art. In fact, it's better if they aren't. The goal is not to make something beautiful. It's to solve a visual problem. It could be a hand holding a pen. It could be the fold of a bedsheet. You pick one thing, study it, and that's it. The next day, something else. And so on. No pressure. No judgment. Just you and reality. And the craziest part is that these few daily minutes, which seem so small, accumulate in ways you can't even imagine. Why you quit before 30 days? You start motivated. In the first 3 days, you follow through perfectly. You do your observational study, feel like you're on the right path, and go to bed with that good feeling of someone who is taking things seriously. On the 4th day, you still do it, but you're already a little less excited. On the 5th, you think, I'm tired today, but I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow comes and you come up with another excuse. Before you realize it, 10 days have passed since your last study and you're right back where you started. Feeling like garbage. Thinking you have no discipline. And then that voice in your head shows up, I'm just not cut out for this. The human brain hates change. It was programmed to conserve energy, to keep you alive by doing the same things over and over again, because that's safe, predictable, and efficient. Creating a new habit requires conscious effort. It requires you to force your brain to do something it hasn't automated yet. And that's tiring. It's literally exhausting from a neurological perspective. In the first few days, you have motivation, so you can overcome that resistance. But motivation doesn't last forever. It's fuel that runs out quickly. And when it runs out, all that's left is willpower. And willpower is like a muscle that gets depleted throughout the day. If you worked all day, solved problems, made decisions, your willpower is already in the red. Then it's time to do your daily study and your brain simply says no. The second week is the worst of all. That's when most people quit. Do you know why? Because the novelty has worn off, but the habit hasn't formed yet. You still have to think about doing it. You still have to push yourself. And at this stage, the results aren't visible yet. You haven't improved in an obvious way. So your brain starts questioning, why am I doing this? It's not even working. And without clear evidence of progress, without immediate reward, the brain abandons the behavior. It goes back to autopilot, to what's comfortable, to what it already knows. Which, in this case, is not practicing. And you don't even realize you were almost reaching the turning point. Because science shows that around the 21st day, something begins to shift. The behavior starts to feel lighter, less forced. Of course, this varies from habit to habit and from person to person. Building the habit of drinking more water is much easier than going to the gym, for example. There's another factor no one talks about, the perfection trap. You start the habit thinking you need to do it perfectly every single day, and that's far from the truth. What matters is not never failing. In fact, it's expected that you'll fail a few times in the process. What matters is coming back as quickly as possible. If you did 6 days in a row, skipped one, and returned the next day, the process is still alive. It only dies when you skip 1 day, feel guilty, and because of that guilt skip 3 more, 5 more, until you quit completely. Guilt is the real habit killer. It turns a small slip into a permanent defeat. And you fall into a vicious cycle. You start, fail, feel guilty, quit. Start again, fail again, guilt again, quit again. And each broken cycle leaves you less confident that you're capable. Now, it's important to understand that you're competing against things your brain already loves. Social media, TV shows, YouTube, video games. All of these were designed by experts to hook your brain. They deliver immediate reward, instant dopamine, zero effort. You click and you receive. Click again and receive again. It's an infinite loop of easy pleasure. And then you expect your brain to choose sitting down to do an observational study that requires concentration, effort, and might not even look good? There's no comparison. It's an unfair fight. Your brain will choose easy pleasure every time. So what should you do? How do you win this battle against your own biology? The answer isn't having more discipline. It's reducing friction. It's making the habits so small, so simple, so easy to start that your brain has no room to say no. And at the same time, it's increasing the friction of distractions. Leave your materials ready to use, right next to your sketchbook. Decide beforehand what you're going to do. Take 1 day of the week and separate all the references you'll use during the week, so you don't have to make that decision every day. Meanwhile, move the video game console out of sight, leave it in another room, or store it inside a closet. When it's time to study, keep your phone away from you. If you're using it as part of the process, turn off notifications. These are simple things, but they make a huge difference in the process. Accept your ugly studies. Here's a truth that will free you from a prison you might not even realize you're in. Your daily studies can be ugly. In fact, they should be ugly. Because if you're making studies that look too polished, you're probably spending too much time trying to impress instead of trying to learn. The purpose of a study is not to become a portfolio piece. It's not to get likes. It's not to show anyone. The purpose is to solve a specific visual problem as quickly as possible. There's something professional artists understand that beginners ignore. Quantity generates quality. Boys, there's a famous study about this. A photography class was divided into 2 groups. One group would be graded based on quantity. The more photos they took, the higher their grade. The other group would be graded based on quality. They only had to deliver 1 photo, but it had to be perfect. Guess which group produced the best photos in the end? The quantity group, because they took hundreds of photos, made hundreds of mistakes, experimented with everything, and learned through practice. Meanwhile, the quality group got stuck trying to plan the perfect shot. And drawing works exactly the same way. You don't improve by thinking. You improve by doing. When you allow yourself to make ugly studies, you remove the biggest obstacle between you and practice, the fear of disappointing yourself. Because every time you sit down to draw expecting to create something incredible, you put massive pressure on your shoulders. And under pressure, you freeze. But when you know that study is just for you, that no one will ever see it, that it can be messy, crooked, disproportionate, you relax. And when you're relaxed, you learn better. You absorb more. You make different mistakes instead of repeating the same ones. And different mistakes mean progress. Accepting ugly work isn't just a practical strategy. It's a mindset shift. It's stopping treating art like a performance and starting to treat it like training. It's understanding that you don't have to prove anything to anyone, not even to yourself. You just need to show up, do the work, and trust that the process will take you where you want to go. But to truly trust the process, you first need to change the story you tell about yourself. You need to stop believing that you don't have talent and start understanding that talent is just a pretty name for a built skill. And that internal shift is exactly what we need to talk about now. The mindset shift. There is a small word with only 5 letters that has the power to completely change your relationship with art. That word is yet. It sounds silly, right? But the difference between thinking, I can't draw hands, and I can't draw hands yet, is massive. The first sentence closes a door. It defines you as someone incapable, as if it were permanent. The second puts you on a journey. It transforms inability into potential. And when you start using that word, when it becomes an automatic part of your internal dialogue, you stop seeing yourself as someone without talent and start seeing yourself as someone in process. And process means you can change. You can grow. You can improve. Most frustrated artists carry a silent, destructive belief. The idea that artistic skill is something you're either born with or not. That there's a clear division between creative people and normal people. And if you weren't born drawing well, then it's simply not for you. That's a lie. The truth, proven by science and by thousands of artists who started out bad and became incredible, is that skill is built. Boys. No exceptions. No one is born knowing how to shade. No one comes out of the womb understanding perspective. As I said before, every person who draws well today once drew very poorly, including those who are, in fact, prodigies. And the only difference between those who became good and those who quit was believing it was possible to improve. In psychology, this has a name, growth mindset. It's the belief that your abilities are not fixed, that your brain is plastic, adaptable, capable of creating new connections and new skills at any age. And there is plenty of research showing that people with a growth mindset learn faster, handle failure better, and persist longer. Do you know why? Because when you believe you can improve, mistakes stop being a sentence and become a teacher. You don't think, I'm bad. You think, I made a mistake here, what can I learn from this? And that subtle difference in interpretation completely changes how you behave. You try again. You seek feedback. You study more. Because you know each attempt brings you closer. Now here's the hard part. Changing your mindset isn't just repeating positive affirmations in the mirror. It's useless to say, I believe I can improve, if deep down in your subconscious, you still believe there's no hope. Mindset changes through evidence. You need to prove to yourself, with concrete facts, that you are capable of growth. And how do you do that? By practicing and recording. Keep your studies. All of them. Even the ugly ones. Especially the ugly ones. Because in a month, when you look back and compare today's study with the one from 30 days ago, you'll see a difference. Maybe small, but it will be there. And that undeniable visual evidence breaks the narrative that you're not improving. It shows your brain that yes, you are getting better. And that's when your mindset truly begins to shift. And if you're not improving, that's important information too. It means you're doing something wrong and need to change your strategy. You're not stupid. You're learning. You're building a skill, and that isn't easy. But for this cycle to begin, you need a clear ritual. A structure that makes daily practice inevitable. And that's exactly what we're going to build now. How to structure your daily practice. It's time to stop theorizing and get practical. You're going to create a 20-minute daily ritual that is so simple, so clear, and so friction-free that your brain will have no excuse not to do it. And the key word here is ritual, not routine. A routine is something you do on autopilot without much thought. A ritual is something you do with intention, with presence. It's a sacred moment you set aside just for you and your growth. And when you treat those 20 minutes as a ritual, they gain weight. They gain importance. You don't skip a ritual. You honor it. So let's build your step-by-step plan. First step, choose a fixed time and a fixed place. Always the same. This isn't being picky. It's science. Your brain works through association. When you do the same thing, in the same place at the same time, every day, you create an automatic trigger. That time arrives, you sit in that spot, and your brain already knows, now it's time to draw. No decision needed. No motivation required. You just do it. It can be early in the morning, before everyone wakes up. It can be at night, after dinner. It can be during your lunch break. The specific time doesn't matter, as long as it's always the same. And the place can be your desk. It can be the couch. Ideally, it's a space you use only for this, but if that's not possible, that's fine. It just needs to be consistent. The same chair, the same lighting, the same corner. This association is powerful. Second step, prepare your materials beforehand. Leave your sketchbook open, your pencil next to it, your reference already selected on your phone screen or printed out. Zero friction. Because if you have to search for materials, choose a reference, or decide what to study, your brain will use that as an excuse to postpone. I don't know what to draw today, I'll do it tomorrow. You eliminate that possibility. When the time comes, everything is ready. You just sit and start. Keep a folder saved with your references, ideally organized by types. Hands, feet, faces, objects, poses, whatever fits your study strategy. And every night choose one for the next day. Simple. No drama. No perfectionism. I personally prefer to take one day of the week to choose all the references I'll use during the week, already in order. That way, as I said before, I don't have to make that decision every day. But deciding the night before works too. Third step, set a 20-minute timer and draw until it goes off. Don't stop early. Even if it looks ugly. Even if you think you've already understood it. Even if you feel like quitting at minute 10. You stay until the end. Because the goal isn't just the study itself. It's training your ability to sustain focus. To not quit when it gets hard. To finish what you start. Those 20 minutes are as much a persistence workout as they are a technical skill workout. And when the timer rings, you stop. Even if you haven't finished. Even if you're in the middle of a line, stop. Put your materials away. Done, you fulfilled it. Don't post it on social media. Don't show anyone. Don't judge whether it's good or bad. Just store it and go live your life. This study is not entertainment. It's training. Fourth step, mark an X on a calendar. Every time you complete your 20 minutes, mark an X. Over time, you'll build a chain of X's. And that chain has brutal psychological power. You won't want to break it. The longer it gets, the more important it becomes to maintain it. It becomes a matter of pride. It's about looking at that streak of 30, 40, 50 consecutive days and feeling that you are someone who keeps promises to yourself. That changes your self-image. You stop being the person who always quits and become the person who shows up every single day. And when your identity shifts, your behaviors follow. And here's the final step, the most important one, trust the system. Don't demand results in the first week. Don't expect miracles on the 10th day. For a while, you'll feel the same. You'll think you're not improving, that you're wasting your time. But keep going, because real change is slow. It's invisible, until suddenly it isn't. Until one day you look back and realize you've become someone else. And it's about that transformation, about what truly happens when you sustain this for a full 30 days, that we need to talk about next. The day you stop asking, am I good enough? There comes a day, you don't know exactly when, but it arrives. You wake up, sit down to do your study, and suddenly realize that the question that had been chasing you for months, maybe years, simply isn't there anymore. That annoying voice that kept poking you all the time, am I good? Do I have talent? Is it even worth continuing? It's gone. It's not that you became the best artist in the world overnight. That's not it. It's that you stopped needing external validation to keep going. You stopped measuring your worth as an artist by likes, compliments, or comparisons with others. You simply draw. And you draw because it's what you do. Period. That shift, quiet and deep, is one of the most liberating things that can happen to an artist. When you practice every single day, without excuses, without drama, your relationship with art stops being about proving something and starts being about doing something. Before, every drawing was a test. A judgment. If it turned out good, you had value. If it turned out bad, you were a failure. But when you draw every single day, you realize that a bad drawing doesn't define you. It's just a drawing. Tomorrow you'll make another one. And another. And another. Consistent practice teaches you that you are bigger than any individual piece. That your identity as an artist isn't in a specific drawing, but in the fact that you draw. Consistently. And no one can take that away from you. This freedom from the need for validation is, for many artists, more important than any technical skill. And it changes not only your art, but your entire life. You stop living in fear of judgment. You stop avoiding showing your work out of insecurity. You stop comparing yourself in a destructive way. You simply create, share when you want to, absorb feedback when it makes sense, and you keep going. You always keep going. You are already an artist. You just need to act like one. Most people treat artist as a title you earn after reaching a certain level. As if there were an invisible line that, once crossed, finally allows you to call yourself an artist. But that line doesn't exist. You don't need to wait until you're good to consider yourself an artist. You don't need permission. You don't need a diploma. You don't need followers. You don't need anyone to validate you. You are already an artist the moment you decide to make art consistently. Period. Because being an artist isn't about skill level. It's about identity. It's about what you do every day, even when no one is watching, even when it's not easy, even when the result isn't what you imagined. Artists don't wait for inspiration to fall from the sky. They have a system. They show up. They do the work. Think about the artists you admire. The ones with incredible work, solid careers, and jaw-dropping portfolios. Do you think they draw every day because they're always inspired? That every drawing they make is pleasurable? That they never hit a wall, never feel frustrated, never look at their own work and think, this is terrible? Of course not. They feel all of that. The difference is that they don't let their feelings dictate their actions. They draw anyway. On good days. On bad days. On days they feel like it. On days they don't. Because they built an identity that doesn't negotiate. I am an artist. Artists create. So I create. Simple as that. It's important to understand that you don't change your identity first and then change your behavior. It works the other way around. You change your behavior and your identity adjusts. Every time you sit down to do your 20 minutes, you are casting a vote for the identity of an artist. You are telling your brain, I am the kind of person who draws every day. And when you cast that vote repeatedly, day after day, it becomes true. You no longer need to convince yourself. You simply are. And then your behaviors flow naturally from that identity. You don't draw because you should. You draw because it's who you are. If this video helped you in any way, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next ones. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. Don't forget to take a look at the description. There are several important links there that can help you even more. See you in the next video.